Okay, Paul, we've got quite a few people on the attendee list now, so we might have a few stragglers, but should we make a start? I'm just conscious of time.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Ross. Yeah, if you want to go ahead and get started.
Um, okay. So do you want to start first there, Paul?
Okay, yeah. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining today's webinar, where we're going to talk about an integration, a new integration between Mailchimp and Salesforce. So we'll cover the details a little bit later on. Let me just introduce myself. My name is Paul Harris. I'm the CEO and founder of Coacto. We're a boutique Salesforce implementation partner based in the UK. We've got customers all over the world. And I've been working in the Salesforce space since probably about 2002. So a good 20 odd years behind me, both as somebody that's used Salesforce in an organization. I've used it as an owner of an organization and made it the operational hub of that organization. And I've been consulting in Salesforce for probably about the last 13 years. So that's a little bit about me. And Ross, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thank you. So I'm Ross. I'm one of the co-founders of Beaufort 12. Much like Paul, I've been working in Salesforce for about 20 years. Started at Deutsche Bank as an end user, implementing that for quite a large part of the business across 30 countries in the end. And then I was an independent consultant in financial services for Salesforce before building a consultancy and then an application business. And we built applications, official applications for Dropbox, Campaign Monitor, Emma, more recently Eventbrite, and of course, way more recently Mailchimp, which we're very excited to show you today. So that's a bit about my background. And move on. Okay, so in today's presentation, we're going to give you a quick demo, some feature overview of the product. I'm going to give you some advantages of connecting the Mailchimp solution to Salesforce. As I mentioned, the demo itself, so we'll try and cover quite a broad base of how the application works. We've got a success story which we'd like to share with you, and we also have an exclusive offer. And at the end, we'll have some questions and answers from the attendees. So the actual application itself is a native Salesforce application. So we built this from the ground up. So it's installed locally in your Salesforce. That's kind of important because it sits in there, it interacts with your data. There's no middleware. And then we pass data to Mailchimp using Mailchimp secure APIs. There's nothing in the middle. We simply pass the data very securely across to Mailchimp. It gives you a single source of truth, so your Salesforce CRM becomes your single source of truth. We'll sync data in both directions. So out of the box, we'll sync information from Mailchimp back to Salesforce, and then optionally, you can set up our data wizards, which we'll cover in the demo, which will show you how to push data quite seamlessly from Salesforce into Mailchimp. If you've got any automations on list, we can automatically send out emails. And there's quite a lot of automation that Mailchimp have built and are building. And then you can also see your segmentation information in Mailchimp, because when you use our data wizard, you can add additional fields and values to enrich your data, and the sync will keep that up to date for you. And as we're using both Lightning components and standard Salesforce objects, you've got the possibility of building your own reports and dashboards. Now, we have a few in the product in itself, some sample ones, but you can build your own. And alongside your data, so your Salesforce contacts and leads, you can add our components. So you can directly see how somebody's interacted with your campaigns and which audiences they're on. Now, on this bit, I'm going to just jump into the demo and just kind of cover just a brief overview of how the product works and kind of a typical path that most people will follow. Now, on this side, and this is obviously on the Salesforce side, we're assuming that the product has been set up by your team or Coacto. It's ready to go. The sync has run and it's populated your data. So it's pulled your data from Salesforce into Mailchimp. Now, some customers are new to Mailchimp, and so when you get to this spot, you might not see an audience. And it's very easy to create one. You can create this right from within Salesforce without going into Mailchimp. So we just create one here. So we've got one ready. There. If you're a fan of The Simpsons, you'll probably know 123 Fake Street. So that allows you to effectively set that guy up. And when I click create audience, it will go ahead and basically create that within Salesforce, and it will push it over to Mailchimp. And a lot of what we do is trying to make the experience as seamless as possible. So you can do things in Salesforce that automatically push over to Mailchimp. Now, typically from here, the first thing that most people would like to do is add people to the audience. And so the way that we do that is via our data wizard. So on the left-hand side, we've got the audience summary. Obviously, is a new list. There's no members, no campaigns. We're going to go to this data wizard here. And then we're going to go ahead and launch that wizard. Now, we work with 4 different types of source: Salesforce list views, reports, Salesforce campaigns. And if you're feeling fancy, you can even build your own SOQL statements. Typically, most people have list views or reports set up already, so it's not particularly difficult. One of the best things about the data wizard is you're not limited like some integration tools to like contacts and leads that people upload their applications or objects. You can work with any object. As long as you've got an email field, you can push data from any object. And you can have multiple import wizards. So if you had some information coming from leads or contacts or other objects, again, as long as the email address is there, we can push it all into one Mailchimp audience member. So I'm going to go ahead and work with the lead object. That's probably the most popular one that we see many customers use. And I've just set up this Mailchimp webinar list view. It's not particularly complicated, but it does highlight a few key points. We have an auto map feature, and that remembers what you've done. So in a previous import, I mapped email to email, first name to first name, and last name to last name. So it's remembered that. If you were to add in address fields and map them, it would remember that next time around. So you don't need to do that. In the list view itself, it actually has more fields. And if we click here, we can see that. As you can see, company, lead status, and lead source. Now, as this is a new Mailchimp audience, the right-hand side is showing us the standard fields that Mailchimp provide. And what would be annoying is if you have to stop here and go into Mailchimp and add these additional fields, but we actually give a little feature here where you can click add. You can go ahead and effectively map these fields in real time. And it won't just map them, it'll actually create them in Mailchimp, and it will select the correct data type. So the company field is text, so it's selected text for me. If I was to add a pick list value or a number, a multi-select pick list, it would detect that and also send that across. In the case of a pick list or multi-pick list, select pick list, we also send across the values that are in there. So it really is kind of taking out a few steps. Now, if I click the next, I could just do a one-off import, but most people would like to schedule this. And so what we typically suggest is setting up a schedule, and you can set it on any of the predefined sets here, so hourly, daily, weekly. But you can even choose a custom one, so you can actually select particular days and particular time slots if you want to. I'll just choose hourly. We also support Mailchimp groups and tags. And a bit like the field, if you don't already have the tag as a new audience, you can create them on the fly. So you can say, this is probably coming from Salesforce, and you can hit the save, and that will not only create the tag, but all the records that are in this import, it will go ahead and tag them against that tag. And if you already had tags, you'd have the ability of selecting one or more of those. Now I'm going to click the save and import and let that run. It will run typically pretty quickly, but just conscious of time. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly flick to another screen. It is starting. I'm just going to go back to audiences, and I will come back to this to show you loading the data in a second. Now on the audience screen, you can see a couple of key facts. You can easily see what imports are happening. So you saw that we just set up that import together. So there's a 1 appeared against the Mailchimp webinar there. You can also see which audiences have campaigns against them and some headline stats, so open rates and click rates. So if I click into the audience or I click into view, it's going to take me to the same spot. So it's going to take me to the audiences. And if I go to campaigns, I can start to see some information about the campaigns that are sent. You can actually, I flicked it too quickly there. On the audience summary, we do give some headline stats. We give sort of clicks on where somebody was when they clicked the link. So we've got some screens there and graphs, but the campaigns themselves sit within this tab here. And if you click on a campaign, for example, this guy here, you can see additional levels of information about them. So some headline information about the actual campaign, any segments we used. You can even see which email was used, all from within Salesforce. A lot of the reporting typically happens in Mailchimp itself. So you might want to go into Mailchimp, and we have a lot of contextual links will get you to that spot. So if I click that View in Mailchimp button, what it will do is it will open up Mailchimp, it will log me in, it will take me to that specific campaign. And so now I'm in Mailchimp. And when that loads in a few seconds, I'll be able to use all of the Mailchimp analytics and website views and pretty much everything that Mailchimp give you, the optimizer, and there are several tools here that you can make use of. Again, it's very easy to jump from Salesforce into Mailchimp if you need to. To that point, if the top right-hand corner, you have several different spots that will get you straight into a specific area within Mailchimp. So for example, if you wanted to get to members, groups, or tags, just by clicking this, it'll open up a window and take you there. I mentioned earlier that we use standard Salesforce objects. So we've got custom objects that store our audiences, memberships, email tracking. If you want to, you can effectively create your own Salesforce reports. And we have some preset reports here also that you can build, and you simply select the report, click view, it'll open up, and I'll put some sample data in there, in this case, sample data. Again, this is all using standard Salesforce reports, and you can build dashboards off of them. It's just probably not got much information then. I shall quickly flip back to the audience summary. Hopefully that import has finished. Yeah, so it ran. So you can see it ran 2 minutes ago. It runs again in 44 minutes. And if you click on this results screen, you can see that it added the 5 records in there. If there are any problems, any messages, you'd get them there. The kind of messages you might see here, the email address might be duplicated, invalid. There might be some kind of message there that you could look at and say, why did that guy not get into the audience? It will give you that information there. Or conversely, if this wasn't a new list and you're updating records, it would give you the update record count. Now, the last point I want to just touch on is how this looks at the contact or lead level. So when you install our product, and this is all configurable, so you can change the page layout, but you'll effectively see a tab here called Mailchimp. And again, you can customize this, and it will show you at the contact level which list the person belongs to, their current status. You can also manage people on the fly. So we just did a bulk import, but if you wanted to, you click on Manage Lists, and you could add somebody to one of the other audiences that you have in this particular plan, or indeed take them off. So if you wanted to remove somebody, you could click that, and what it would do is it would unsubscribe that person in real time in Mailchimp. Now you will notice on the right-hand side, it just happened in real time in front of us, that we keep an audit of the activity. So this is covering a few different things. That one there just showed us that I clicked unsubscribed. I did it at this time. And if we expand that information out, you can see a bit more information. It was by the admin, I unsubscribed them, I removed them from the development list. So you get a running audit component on the right-hand side. You also can see when people were added, you can see what campaigns they were sent. You can click into that information and get a bit more detail at the level, at the campaign level. So there's a lot of information you can see contextual to the contact or lead. You can also filter it if you want to, so you can choose which audiences, what type of information you want to see. So that's a very brief and just conscious of time today overview of the product. So we're seeing a few different things here. We're seeing how easy it is to add information from Salesforce into Mailchimp. You can see how it is synced back and displayed on the contact within our custom objects. We've got contextual links that will get you into different Mailchimp spots. You can build reports. Some of the areas we didn't cover, you can have this create Salesforce contacts and leads. So we have a feature in field mappings that allows you to either update information. So if you've got your members being updated within Mailchimp, we can sync that back to Salesforce contacts and lead records or personal account records. We can also have it create new records. So we can create contacts, leads, and personal accounts if you need those as well. We added a record manually as well. And you can see we have an option here that if you add a record manually, we can also map those custom fields if it sits outside of the data wizard. So there's a lot of functionality, and we've just kind of really touched the basics of it. And if there are any questions at the end or anything you want us to go through in more detail, I'd be happy to answer that. On that point, we have a dedicated support site here, which covers quite a lot of detail on the product. You'll notice when you get there, we use these arcades, so we have various videos set up, sort of step you through processes, depending on what you're doing. So the data wizard I was just working on earlier, we have literally a step-by-step guide on how it works, how it gets there, and you can click through and see how it all fits together. And at the bottom, we try to add in some FAQs. So if there's anything that you're looking, have a question on, we've got some FAQs sitting there. We're adding to that bank at the moment. And if all else fails, you can obviously get in touch with Paul's team or us via the contact tab should you have any kind of specific questions about the product or trying it. So that's a demo. Hopefully that kind of covers the main use case. And I've gone through it quite quickly because I just want to make sure we've got enough time for the presentation today. Just going to flick back to the presentation itself. Just go back over the things. So I've done this kind of already, but as we mentioned before, there's an automated sync. So every hour information we pulled from Mailchimp back into Salesforce. We do that to be respectful. I guess a key point there, being an integration, we make sure that we are very respectful of Salesforce governor limits and limits that trip up a lot of integrations. So the product is very well built to deal with bulk operations. You can push data from Salesforce to Mailchimp to allow segmentation, to send focused emails. We've seen that you can see those results and that activity straight on the contact or lead objects rather via audience membership. You can see audit information, you can see email tracking all on the screen. These are all Lightning components. You can reposition them if you have a complicated page layouts or you prefer to change it. We use standard Salesforce permissions, so you can hide things away or expose things to users. So it's pretty malleable. Pass over to Paul.
So if those of you that were watching the LinkedIn feed for this event will have noticed I'd made a little cheeky message yesterday to say that there's a big announcement coming, and literally hot off the presses. I don't want to steal Ross's thunder because he's the man behind this, but there's a big announcement that's coming. You folks are going to be the first to hear it, and Ross has been in conversation with Mailchimp, and Mailchimp have decided to make this application their preferred connector between Mailchimp and Salesforce, which means the existing Mailchimp application will be retired, and this will be the default application going forward, which is huge news considering this is a very new app, and I think it's testament to the quality of the application and the feature-rich implementation that Ross and his team have put together. So yes, a big congratulations to you, Ross, for that. Is there anything else you'd like to add in terms of what that actually means for where we are now and product names and so on?
Yeah, no, thank you, Paul. It's come as a little bit of a shock, to be quite frank. I mean, Mailchimp have been very interested in what we've been doing and following us and kind of reaching out to us to see where we're going with the product. And we've been, we've built the product and we've had it in a beta state for a few months just to make sure we were happy with it, and they were kind of part of that journey and the early phases. And to get their recognition so early on was, it's incredibly pleasing, and we're thrilled to be working with them. So the official will be the official application that will be on the App Exchange if it's not already. They're in the process of working with Salesforce on that. Mailchimp have their own marketplace, so again we'll appear there as the official app. We'll be working with them in terms of the migration process, in terms of how they might migrate their customers, but this is pretty fresh. I can see Deborah has a question. Deborah, I will answer the question. We'll get through the pres and I'll come back to you on Q&A, and I'm very happy to cover any of those points that you might have. So forgive me, we'll circle back on any questions you have. In terms of what it means for us in terms of like next steps is that you know, the Mailchimp team will be working very closely with them, which again is very good news for both us and the customers, because it means that we have access to both their support and engineering teams, which is not something that typically a partner would have. So we've got the ability to, you know, talk to their product and marketing and development teams in a very close way. We'll have a shared chat channel to be able to chat with them. So it's very good news from an application development and process. So we're very, very happy about it. But
Yeah,
that's news this week. So
yeah, it's incredible, Ross. So I just wanted to sort of recap some of the other reasons why, you know, Beaufort 12 is really a good organization to work with. For those of you that haven't checked out some of their other applications, they've got a track record of building official integrations, actually. So they did have the official integration for Dropbox before Dropbox took that over and managed that moving forward. They have a great Eventbrite integration, and actually that was used for setting up part of this event. And there's also some other apps that are used, you know, for mass emails like Mailchimp, you know, for things like Campaign Monitor, Emma, are also other applications that are supported. And I think, you know, the Mailchimp application came about because Ross and his team have got a reputation for building really robust, strong, feature-rich applications that are of high quality because that's their business. They have a vested interest in putting those applications together in such a way so that people use them, because that's their business. You know, they've got thousands of customers across the globe, and you know, if you check them out on the Salesforce App Exchange, you'll see they've got a great customer rating of 4.85. So, you know, they're a really solid organization to work with, and we're, you know, really delighted to be partnered with them in helping them roll out this Mailchimp application to their existing customers, and also to many new people that have expressed an interest in adopting this new application. So just a little bit about Coacto. So we have agreed with Ross to become preferred implementation partners for them for this application. And, you know, for us, this adds to the suite of skills that we have as an organization. We specialize in Sales, Service Cloud, and Experience Cloud. We're also deep experts in ERP and manufacturing. And our business is really built around building trusts and relationships with our organizations. So we really try to get under the skin of an organization to drive a deep engagement with that organization and the teams of people that we work with, so that we can build, configure, and achieve systems that align to the business goals, align to the business processes, align to those business needs. And we really want to create an environment where it's mutually successful, where both parties do benefit from that engagement. We try to work really positively, honestly. We want to be referred, so we have to create a really positive and engaging experience in order to do that, because ultimately what this comes down to is about achieving some value from the investment that you make in your software technology and the investments that you make in people that help you achieve your objectives, you know, with software and consulting services. So that's a little bit about Coacto. We've been around since 2016, but as I mentioned at the beginning, I've personally been in the Salesforce space now for well over 20 years. And so I think we've got deep experience, and would be happy to work with anybody to help them achieve, you know, their Salesforce vision. So moving on to a success story. Now, the app is new, and you might say, well, are there some successes with this app already? And yes, there are. I mean, the app has been extensively tested, you know, by Ross and his team and a number of preferred early access partners. So you know, we were one of those partners, and we were using the old Mailchimp integration. And to be frank, it gathered dust in our organization because we found it a little challenging to work with. So we didn't really engage with it in the way that I think we're engaging with the new application. We find the new application much easier to use. But a success story here from a company called Groundwork Apps. They're a startup organization. They've put their first app out there now, and they're really looking to, as they grow their business, engage with new prospects, new leads, and to engage with the contacts in their database through a series of campaigns. So they worked with Ross and the team in getting the application deployed into their Salesforce system and aligning it with their business process. And they're now working on how they can more deeply integrate that into their process and leverage that application more effectively. And Paul Batterson, who is the CEO of that organization, has put a very great quote there that recognizes the work that we did as a team together in terms of getting that up and running for them quickly, effectively. They found us easy to work with. We really found them easy to work with too. And we got things up and running in just a few hours, which is going to yield tremendous value for Paul and his team as they use the app and they use Mailchimp moving forward to deliver those engaging mail campaigns to their prospects, their contacts, and their customers. So there's a success story already there. It would have felt a little bit wrong for us to write our own success story, but I think we'll certainly contribute to that as well as we use the app a little bit more in our organization. But it's definitely now, we were even thinking of moving away from Mailchimp because we couldn't find a strong piece of technology that would enable us to leverage all of those capabilities. So now we're going to stick with Mailchimp and we're going to use Ross and his team's app to do that. So you might be wondering how we're going to get this out there and how we're going to get people up and running. So Ross and I have been discussing putting this exclusive offer in place, really to get people engaged and up and running with the technology as quickly as possible. Now, we've put together a special one-off setup and training fee to help get the app installed, get it configured, to get the basic setup in place so that you can get up and running within a few hours. Ross has also kindly offered to do a 50% discount on the app for the first 12 months. Both of those are with the proviso that you sign up by the 30th of June. And as an additional incentive, the standard 14-day free trial has been extended to 30 days because Ross and his team is so confident in the quality of this application. He wants to make sure that you've got plenty of time to try it out, demonstrate the value of the app, which I think you'll really see once you start to use it. So this package is really there to get it out there, to get it up and running in your organizations as quickly as possible. So if you're interested, you can reach out to us and we'll get the ball rolling for you to get that up and running in place for you and for your organization. So that's there. That expires on the 30th of June, so don't leave it too late. But I know we had a question earlier on from Deborah. Deborah, would you like to share your question with us? And I know there's a couple of other questions that have come in the chat as well.
Hi, sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So congratulations about becoming the Mailchimp preferred app. That's really wonderful. I recently installed your Eventbrite app for a client. It works very well. I'm a fan. So I'm very excited about this product. My question, though, is that I work with a lot of small nonprofits that have been using the current Mailchimp app for free. So I'd like to know what your policy will be for nonprofit organizations. Will you have a discount? How will you make that affordable since there won't be a free option now?
So on our side, we do pay because we invest in the application. And I think that's something that, to be frank, has let the Mailchimp application down. I mean, if you look back at the updates, it's not been updated or touched in a while. The feedback typically about support has not been particularly good, and I'd say our support and the support through Coacto is pretty good. We try incredibly hard to help and add features and try it. So that's why it's paid for. We also, we release on our other products. So you'll probably see on the Eventbrite side, we always release almost once a week with changes, updates, improvements. When Salesforce does one of their big releases, which they do 3 times a year, as you know, and a lot of incremental ones, we try to make sure to take advantage of those features. For non-profits, you know, we would typically give the 10% discount that we currently do, but through this offer with Coacto, and if you reach out to us directly, we can obviously chat to you about it, but we would be happy to extend the same 50% discount to them. Most non-profits are, you know, small non-profits typically have quite small lists, and so they'll probably be paying around, I would say, on our lowest tier, around, which is $25 US. Now, bear in mind that's a site license, so the whole company can use it. With a 50% discount, you're falling to $12.50 a month. We are, you know, we're very close to like losing money on those kind of deals. I'm being very honest with you. By the time we pay Salesforce is 15%. And remember, that fee is for a month. That's not for a day. It's, you know, $12.50 over 30 days. So I would incredibly good value. Mailchimp will, and this is all for them to kind of, you know, work through on their side, but their application is not going anywhere. So I would say if a customer is interested in moving to us, they can obviously install and play with our product free for 30 days and see if they see the value in it. And if they do, they can sign up and purchase it, and we can provide that discounting to them. But again, being honest, being in the industry, I think it's even at $12.50 or even at the full price at $25 a month for a site license, I think it's incredibly good value for what you're getting.
Sure, I agree. But you know, these tiny nonprofits often are stretching every single dollar, so they're always looking for an option that won't cost them a lot or that would need the investment. But thank you very much. That helps a lot.
No,
and
I would say the free app, I mean, the feedback we've had on the free app is actually, strangely, it's cost nonprofits more time, largely because they've had to invest so much internally and also external consultants. And you know, the price of adding consultants and internal staff, like you often forget about the fact that either a volunteer or a person working, that you're still paying for their time. If it takes them 2 or 3 hours, that's time they could have been spending on, you know, making the business better or the nonprofit better. So I think there's a time aspect that's often missed out. And you know, if you're paying $12.50 for an app that actually does sync the data, and you know, particularly for donation lists, you know, the last thing you want to happen is which we see quite a lot of, the sync hasn't worked correctly, and therefore people that they wanted to reach, their donors, they just haven't been contacted. You know, you're missing out on people that could be giving donations into the business. So, but I do appreciate the question. It's a good point, and we'll obviously be in close contact with Mailchimp to see how they're going to manage the migration of customers from their free app to the paid for app. But my understanding right now is that the free app will remain there, and then customers can migrate to us on deals like this, on this process like this.
Great, thank you very much.
That's a great question, Deborah. Thank you. I've got a question here, Ross, which is really around managing sort of unsubscribes and GDPR and how that works between Mailchimp and Salesforce, because there's a lot of focus on data quality at the moment and making sure that people, you know, not only subscribe to the principles of that legislation, but actually enforce that as well. And it's really about, I think you showed in the demo, you can click a button, you can unsubscribe somebody. If somebody unsubscribes in Mailchimp, can that automatically be moved across into Salesforce?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Paul. So you're absolutely right. There's a couple of things to look at here. So typically an unsubscribe happens by somebody unsubscribing from an email. And when that happens, it will instantly update Mailchimp. So Mailchimp is a source of truth for unsubscribes and GDPR. So even if the sync hasn't run on our side, that data will be enforced in the fact that we won't add them back, we won't make them subscribed again. And if you try to send out an email and you have an automation, it just simply won't go because they're unsubscribed. When our sync runs, it will basically update all the list membership statuses. So if a person's unsubscribed from one or more lists, these guys will change from being subscribed to unsubscribed. If you click the refresh icon there, it will refresh in real time. So if you wanted to look at a particular customer, you can do that. But the sync will take care of it for you every hour. I guess the most important point on that, and so it's a great question, is that Mailchimp will always be the source of truth and membership records. So if the person's unsubscribed there, even if it shows subscribed here, it still won't mean an email will go out. It still won't affect automation because it's there. It's just the time between the sync running, which is typically every hour. Why do we do it every hour? Largely to be very respectful, and that's the key thing here. So where a lot of integrations fall down, they're not respectful of Salesforce's limits or processes or records that you might have. Lots of people are using flows these days. Lots of people have other applications. If you're running in somebody's org, you need to be respectful. And that means, you know, spending a lot of time on things that most users will never see. So making sure that our processes are very respectful, they're properly bulkified, they have observed Salesforce's security, and effectively give a very robust sync. And that's, if there's one thing that we really concentrate, and again, it's an area a lot of people fall down, is the sync is incredibly robust. And that's so important if you're unsubscribing or deleting records in different systems.
Yeah, great, thank you. And I've just got another question that actually came out of a conversation I had with somebody yesterday. They were a marketing person, and they're using Mailchimp to deliver, you know, campaigns, and they actually use Salesforce campaigns as well. Can you talk a little bit about how, if they're designing and managing their campaigns in Salesforce, how that would map through into Mailchimp?
Yeah, of course. So on our data wizard earlier, you saw we had the possibility of using a Salesforce campaign as a source. And again, we see this quite as a typical use case. So people might create a Salesforce campaign, they'll add a load of contacts or leads to it to make it members, and then they want to get that information across over into Mailchimp. And so they'll use our data wizard to do that. So the data wizard will use the campaign member object as the mechanism to get that data across. We are also looking, and if you're familiar with our other products, we do have the possibility of creating Salesforce campaigns. So this is if you sent out a Mailchimp campaign and you want us to create and update a Salesforce campaign, we are actually looking at adding that feature. The version of the product you're seeing today, considering it's like version 1 for all intents and purposes, is pretty feature rich. But we've got some things that we're looking at adding in the pipeline. So those kind of things are Salesforce campaigns, and very, very quickly, we've already had this from the testing group, is support for invocable actions, so that you can use Salesforce's flow or code. So again, we have that in Campaign Monitor and Eventbrite, but the ability to be able to add a person to a list, unsubscribe them, even create a list or an audience in this case, using invocable actions. So Salesforce campaigns, if you want to use it as a source, we support that in the import wizard. And in the near future, we'll be looking at adding support to actually create Salesforce campaigns from Mailchimp campaigns.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. Excellent. Thank you. I think those there's a few questions overlap there. I think we've probably covered all of the key topics there. I guess you know, the one final question really is with this exclusive offer is, how do people get in touch? How do they avail themselves of that offer?
Cool. So obviously, if they go through Coacto directly, we'll you know, we'll obviously work with you guys. We'll get the org ID and we'll make sure that that's all set up. Tomorrow we'll be sending an email after this presentation, which will include the recording, and we'll send it to any folks that missed the event today. It'll also include details on how you sign up for the offer and the unique code that you can put in. Those of you that are familiar with how Salesforce work, the applications that sit on Salesforce checkout, they can be incredibly painful to purchase. If you're a consultant and you're trying to get your client to purchase, anybody that knows Salesforce App Exchange or checkout will be like, oh my God. So you'll be pleased to know we don't use that. We actually have our own billing solution that uses Stripe. So you simply go to the billing tab, you click buy now, you fill in your card details and you're done. Within that screen, you'll be able to put in a discount code, which is specific to Coacto, that will allow that customer to receive 50% discount for the first 12 months. And of course, any customer that comes to us via you guys will get an extended 30-day trial.
Okay, that sounds great. Thanks very much. Does anybody else have any questions? If you'd like to raise your hand. Okay, well, that's it, Ross. Thanks very much for giving us that whistle-stop tour through the application. I think it looks great, and as you say, for a version 1 application, you know, it looks robust, it looks good, it's feature-rich. I think, you know, and on the back of the, you know, the Mailchimp announcement, for it becoming the official app. I think that's a fabulous start to your campaign in getting this app out into the marketplace.